Hello, everyone. Today was a very slow news day, which gives me an excuse to do a video I've been wanting to do for a while. So this is going to be an analysis of sorts of Overlord Season 1, specifically Momonga and his interaction with the guild of Ainz Ooal Gown. Now before I start, I want to stress that this is one possible commentary on the story Season 1 tells, but it is not everything, nor is it definitively what I say it is. This is just an opinion, and something that I personally feel attached to. Also, I will warn you, this video will have plenty of Season 1 spoilers, so if you have not already seen this anime and wish to without spoilers, please do so before watching this. So without further ado, let us examine Ainz. For those who have not seen Overlord, Ainz, or previously known as Momonga, is the leader of a 41-member guild called Ainz Ooal Gown. The guild was originally formed in a dive RPG called Yggdrasil, and was comprised of demi-human members. Demi-human meaning hybridizations of human and some creature or entity. Ainz is a greater undead, and Overlord Lich by his character sheet, which basically means he's a maxed out greater that makes most clerics piss themselves as they pray to their puny gods. Whisked away on the final day of the Yggdrasil server, Momonga finds himself in a new world, where the game has become the world he lives in. Static NPCs now are alive and moving with their own personalities and quirks. The ones in particular we care about in this video are the NPCs living in the guild hall of Ainz Ooal Gown, known as Nazarick. The Nazarick NPCs were all created by members of the guild, with some small exceptions, and thus they are imbued with the personalities given to them by their creators, some of the 41 members, Momonga's friends. Momonga, swiftly learning that he is the only player in Nazarick and the New World, as far as the anime viewer is aware, he dons the name Ainz Ooal Gown, and so most now refer to him as Ainz. Exploring this new world, he couldn't necessarily be the undead lich image we see in Nazarick, so he created a persona, the Ebony Warrior. No, not that one, this one. And used the name Momon to join an adventurers guild and gather intel for Nazarick in a quest for world domination. Okay, so now that we got the basic recap of the Season 1 plot, I want to touch on some backstory about the writer. You see, according to an interview with the writer Kugane Maruyama, he said that he started writing because his tabletop game group stopped meeting, and most of us cannot be happier because of this. However, we can see this kind of notion express itself through how Ainz is the sole protagonist in a world in which he is essentially a god, in which he essentially has full reign, even if he hasn't taken it yet. And this is where my analysis takes its roots. So over the course of the first season, we see Ainz performing a multitude of tasks, and through this, his emotions are regulated through the new world's effects on him. You know, being an undead and thus having no emotions. We can see his personality and expressions of certain sentiments do show through though, despite him having, quote, no heart. For example, at the start of the first episode, Ainz changes the setting of Albedo, the leader of the Floor Guardians, to be in love with him. Now, this was his real self, still in the game Yggdrasil, so we can see that the player himself is childlike at heart. As he enters the new world, he is shocked and slightly unsure of how to handle himself. He goes around to different parts of Nazarick and summons all the Floor Guardians, more or less to see that everything is indeed living on its own. For many of us watching, this is a fantasy. Maybe a small one, but a fantasy for many of us who enjoy watching isekai anime. Seeing a village being attacked, he is reminded of one of his former guildmates, and then goes out to squash a human army from basically pillaging and killing innocent civilians. But we see Ainz try out his powers, as if he is trying them out for the first time. After all, he uses his favorite spell, Grasp Heart, on the first person he sees. Well, first enemy he sees. I would say this is akin to a child going through Disney World and going to find his favorite character. He is learning by doing, experiencing what is now a novel experience. He is even visibly emotionally disturbed when his Create Undead spell actually animates a dead body in a mass of purple goo. So we know he is still human mentally. And that is still expressed clearly as his undead form. So why would an author do that? especially in stark contrast to the end of the season Ainz, who we see stoically face off against one of his own guardians with calculated and precise efforts that would put some of the greatest tacticians to shame. Well, it is because one can view this whole story as a coming-of-age tale. The reason I went through all of that exposition about the plot at the beginning is because it is a crucial aspect to my theory. We see here in this picture, it illustrates my thoughts quite clearly. I have linked the comic down below, as I will only be showing pieces of it. In college life, you are surrounded by friends and colleagues who will battle along through all of your endeavors alongside you, have your back and support you, even if you are kind of a lonely person. Those people are there. But what happens when you graduate? Nothing. You're alone. You must figure out how to now take what you have learned and become a full-fledged adult. Ainz wakes up after his childlike final exploit of the game to a world in which he knows nothing about, where everything is new and novel, where he has all the tools available to him but no knowledge of the world around him, and, more importantly, his friends are gone. In this, I see Guardians as a memory, the Floor Guardians being the memory of his friends. In the anime, we see this play out several times, where NPCs in Nazarick will literally trigger memories in Ainz's mind. When a student graduates college, many of his friends only exist in memory. They are off doing other things, off being adults elsewhere. And sometimes you have to try something new. Momonga, the Elder Lich spellcaster, dons a suit of armor and sword to become a fighter, to find himself, in a way. To find something that he is looking for in the new world. Someone else like him, a former player. In that attempt to find what he has lost, he does make comrades, but he is reluctant to really form an emotional connection, partially because he physically cannot, and partially because they are not the friends he used to have. But finally, we get to a scene which Albedo is asking why Ainz must go fight Shaltir, one of the Floor Guardians, alone. He says he is still unsure if he is a good ruler, which one could read as he is unsure if he is a successful adult. After all, the job he is performing in this hypothetical is running Nazarick, after all. But his memories are telling him he can just hide behind the Guardians and let the ghosts of his past take care of his problems. The Guardians will take care of Shaltir. Ainz sees this and cannot allow it because he is honestly the only one who can take hold of his own destiny. This whole scene is just honestly wonderful. If you've watched it before, watch it again for your own sakes. Now, of course, he has to face off against Shaltir, a guardian, in this analogy, a memory of his friend. He must kill the memory in the show, but not the same way in the analogy. He must come to terms with this situation. This is him facing against his past and rising above it. The symbolism is very strong in this aspect. But again, this is just one way someone could watch the first season of Overlord. I'm sure there are multiple other ways. Well, in fact, I know there are other ways, but we will save that for future videos, if people are interested after all. Thank you all for watching. I know it's unusual compared to my usual videos, but this is something I truly like doing, so I hope you can bear with me for that. If you have a comment, leave it down below, and share out the video if you'd like. It would really help me out. Hope you have a good one, and I will see you all soon.